How fun to be switching roles and sitting across the table with one of Little Rock's own, journalist, reporter, entrepreneur, and prominent pundit known for his insightful commentary on politicals and economical issues, Mr. Roby Brock. Launched in 1999, Roby is the founder and host of Talk Business and Politics, CEO of the parent company, Natural State Media, and in 2015 brokered a deal for the merger of several Northwest publications to create the Northwest Arkansas Business Journal. On their website, they succinctly describe their operations. They write, with bureaus in Northwest Arkansas, Fort Smith, Jonesboro, Little Rock, and Central Arkansas, Talk Business and Politics interviews business and political decision makers who are shaping the Arkansas news landscape, reports on key industry trends and topics, and provides extensive political and capital news coverage. So true. You can hardly turn on the local news without seeing one of Roby's interviews or hearing his comments on all subjects of affairs. It is obvious he has a ferocious appetite for politics and that he does his homework, which may be why in the ever-changing news business, Roby's businesses have stayed successful and relevant for decades. It is with great pleasure I welcome to the table the well-read, well-versed media executive, entrepreneur, reporter, premier pundit, Mr. Roby Brock.
Pundit.
Am I saying it wrong?
Pundit.
Pundit.
Pundit. Right.
Pundit.
Thank you for having me, Kerry. And Sun Gray. So is that his full name, Sun Gray, or is it just Gray?
It's becoming that way, yes.
Yeah. It's good. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. To our listeners, I just want to tell a little bit about you. You do so much stuff. I really am shocked at how much stuff you do. And to tell our listeners a little bit about your background, how you got into politics, and why you're qualified to do what you do.
Yeah, I'm omnipresent. That's the word that you're looking for right there. Omnipresent. So he's everywhere.
You are everywhere.
So
I should have put that in your description.
No.
Omnipresent.
You got to leave me something to say.
Roby Brock.
You got to leave me something to say. I was going to I'm going to turn the tables. I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions today.
That's because you're an interviewer by trade, and it's not going to work.
In your introduction, you guys talked about listening more to learn. And so what's wrong with me listening and learning? Because that's what I do for a living. So that's all right, isn't
I don't know.
It's time to turn the tables, Roby. It's time to turn the tables.
I'm going to get down in your business instead of up in your business. How about that? So...
Okay, you went to Hendrix College. Beat you to it. You went to Hendrix College. What'd you major in?
I'm an English major.
I think that is a great major that people discount way too much. You can read about anything and learn about anything if you're an English major.
Yeah. Hendrix has a liberal arts curriculum, so you don't get a lot of deep specialty in something. So like you wouldn't be like if you were a business and economic major, which I was for almost 3 years, you wouldn't get like a agricultural finance degree from Hendrix. You would just get a broad business and economics degree, but you'd also take a bunch of other courses throughout all of that to become more well-rounded about a bunch of different things. Mm-hmm. I know a lot about a lot of things, but I'm probably not an expert in much of anything, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. That's what's good about liberal arts. Yeah, You're well-rounded.
No, I like it. It teaches you critical thinking. Yeah. So, and that's really what I've done. But I was a business major.
Oh.
For 3 years, I took cost accounting and Shakespeare in the same trimester. We had trimesters back then at Hendrix. And my father was a CPA, and I had to go tell him that I really liked Hamlet better than last in, first out accounting, And he said, I'll make you this deal. He said, if you'll take intermediate accounting, you can go major in anything else that you want to do. So I probably would have minored in business and economics because I took enough of those classes.
But I thought you said you were an English major.
Well, Hendrix didn't do minors back then. So I took English from there on out. So, and I'd had a few English courses already. So, but I did that for kind of the oral and written communication skills that you learn from reading and writing and presenting and stuff like that. And
helped you with your journalism.
Ironically, I talk business.
Aha. Your dad's so proud.
Got the background in English and business.
What would Little Rock do without you?
probably be just fine.
No, really and truly, there's nobody like you in Little Rock,
just
Arkansas.
Another layer of news to report and interviews to cover. But I mean, I'm not saying somebody else would step in and do what I did, but I think that we find news sources wherever we can find them. And I kind of created one out of thin air almost 25 years ago. And
your appetite was, ignited, let's say, because you worked on Bill Clinton's campaign.
That was my first paid political job. Yeah. So everybody that will recall the election night of 1992 when Bill Clinton came out on the old State House lawn with all the flags and I was the coordinator of all of the streets of Little Rock for that event. That was what I got hired to do in that campaign. It was.
Well, then I've got a gripe with you because I was stuck at second.
Trust me. I'm just glad nobody got trampled that night. The crowd was obviously bigger than we thought. We had to plan for 230 satellite trucks from all over the world. We had to, you had to have for the reporters and the cable TV and all that at the time.
How did you end up with a job like that? You're an English major.
So when I graduated from Hendrix, I spent a year traveling overseas. I lived in London for several months and traveled around the continent for a little bit because I never got to do that in college because I was really active with soccer and student government. And so I never got to go on the exchange programs a lot of students did. And I was like, I'm going to sell my car and I'm going to go live abroad, which my father supported and my mother supported me doing that. But I literally lived like on Europe on $25 a day.
You can't do that anymore,
No.
can you?
I had to do it when I was young. If I didn't do it when I was young, I knew I would never take the time off of life to go.
And I don't think young people could do it very well today, could they?
Not on $25 a day.
Well, but I mean, could you backpack across Europe? Because that was kind of a standard thing. You could backpack.
Yes,
you could ride a train.
The laws still allow you to do so, yes.
Yeah.
But it was a great learning experience because you got to see so many different parts of the world, the things that you'd been studying. I wanted to see those things firsthand. I met so many people. I still have contacts from Germany and London and places that I traveled. And that was before you had Facebook and email and all that stuff. So it was hard to keep up relationships. But I came back and went to work for an accounting firm, ironically.
Oh my!
But I was a marketing person for the accounting firm. So I spoke the language, but I did things with my English degree in communications.
You're an oxymoron.
How about that?
Yeah.
And one of the partners in that firm was hired by the Clinton for President campaign. Her name is Barbara Yates. You probably know Barbara.
Yeah.
And she asked me, I'd left the accounting firm and started a restaurant here in Little Rock where Loca Luna is now. It was called Shoot the Bull. We probably threw you out a few times, Kerry. So
probably.
Yeah. And
where is it, Loca Luna? Oh yeah.
Down in the Riverdale area down there. And she came in for lunch one day and she's like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I started and managed this place with a friend." And she said, "I might have something you'd be interested in." And I was ready to move on at that point. And she said, "I need somebody to help for this watch night party in downtown Little Rock." And so I went over there and 2 weeks later was put to work for about 8 weeks, putting that whole party together.
And you got the bug.
Yeah, there's actually a little backstory on that. I was around a lot of people in the campaign. So, James Carville and George Stephanopoulos, they were all political operators. You would see them every day. You could go to the war room where they would have these end of the day meetings and they would talk about what was on the news. They would watch the 5 o'clock news, the national newscast, and they would report, "This was our message. You see how clearly it got through." I mean, it was a little bit simpler day and age back then for political reporting. And I'd hear them give their speeches. So, it was a little bit intoxicating to do all of that. But I also noticed that everybody that was working on that campaign wanted to go to the White House. They wanted to be in Washington, D.C. after the campaign was over. And since I had been gone, for a little bit of time, right after college, and I was just so young in my career. I mean, I was in my early 20s, and I knew that the only job I might get in Washington, D.C. would be the mailroom at the White House, getting about $12,000 a year, which didn't sound like that much fun to me. I'm like, no. But all these people are leaving, and there'll be a whole lot of vacancies of places here in Arkansas. So that night of the watch night party, I had Secret Service access because I had been working with them on the planning of everything. And I'm on one of the perches right outside the old State House, and I see Lieutenant Governor Jim Guy Tucker, who I know is going to become the next governor.
Right.
And he's lost in that big, massive crowd. I was like, he's supposed to be at that VIP reception over there at the bottom of the Excelsior Hotel in the State House Convention Center, the Excelsior.
Yeah.
Throwback. And he was over where the Camelot was, which is now the DoubleTree. So, and the crowd was packed, and I was like, he's not getting through. So I went down there from my Secret Service perch, and I introduced myself. I didn't know him, and I said, "You're supposed to be way over there." And he goes, "Yeah, I know." I said, "Who's with your party?" It was 4 of them. I said, "Y'all lock arms, and I'm going to get you where you need to go." And I went through the different checkpoints and got him to right before the last checkpoint when he was going in the building. He said, "Now, what was your name again?" And I said, "It's Roby Brock. And in 2 weeks, when I finish cleaning up this mess, I'm going to come ask you for a job at the Capitol," because I knew he was going to be governor. And I said, "I need you to remember my name." And he said, "I will." And I went up there 2 weeks later, and he said, "Come on board." So
lucky people make their own luck, don't they?
Yeah. It's hard work. But that was lucky, seeing him and realizing he was lost. You know,
a lot of people would have seen him lost and not gone down there and done anything about it.
Right.
A lot of people, "Oh, he's lost." Yeah, sure is. You were proactive about it.
Well, I was thinking he's going to be the next governor, I mean, somebody should be taking care of him.
Well, some people would go, "Look, there's the next governor. He can't get through."
the next step thought.
But that got me.
The next step, the critical thinking.
Yeah, but that got me into politics, though, and that was a great learning experience.
So how did you end up going? You even ran for a seat one time, didn't you?
I did. I ran for the state Senate.
How terrible was that?
96. Well, I loved the experience.
But you didn't get elected?
No. So Vic Snyder was in the middle of a 4-year state Senate term, and he got elected to Congress. And I ran for his open seat. They had to fill out the remaining 2 years.
So who won?
Phil Wyrick, B.J. Wyrick's husband. He was a sitting state representative, and he wound up winning.
Where's Vic Snyder these days?
He works at Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Oh, still.
Yeah, he's the medical director there. But that election was a 6-week campaign from after the November election until early January. So we had to campaign through Thanksgiving, Christmas, and 10-degree weather, and that was really miserable. But I still have friendships from that race.
You'd do it again?
In a heartbeat, yeah. And it was just a lot of fun meeting people, and I was younger than too. I was 30, so you can do a lot more when you're 30 than when you're.
I don't know. I think I work a lot smarter, I don't know. I think I work smarter and more effectively now.
Well, yeah.
How did Talk Business and Politics come about?
So,
what year? You started it in 1999. All this other stuff we're talking about is about that same time, isn't it?
Yeah. I think I ran for the Senate seat in 96. I had worked for Jim Guy Tucker prior to running for that Senate seat. So, so we're staying in chronological order.
We sure
there,
are. So when does Talk Business and Politics come?
So I started a video production company with a couple that wound up moving out of town. And Stacy and Sam DeWitt. I don't know. You remember Brent and Sam's Cookies? Yeah. The Sam.
Yeah, and he went off to do a radio show in Atlanta.
They did it was TV series.
TV series.
I helped start that. That was my concept.
Gosh, Little Rock is small.
Isn't it? So
that's why I love it.
So we had this video production company, and we were turning down some business because we were producing a news segment that was about kids and issues affecting kids. And we just couldn't do any outside business because the time constraints for doing this news segment 3 times a week was a big, heavy lift. And we were doing enough to have some critical mass, but we weren't really making any money, and we had to move to a bigger market to make that happen. So I decided I didn't want to move to Atlanta. Stacy, Sam's wife, who was really talented in video production, she had been in the news business. She was from Atlanta, and their kids were really young, so it was a good time for them to make that move. He had cashed out of Brent and Sam's. I decided to stay here and reform a video production company and take some of the business that we were turning down. It had gotten more affordable to do video production back then. It used to have about $1 million to get into the business, and I think I financed $75,000 worth of equipment, which I could probably do for $15,000 today.
Or 5.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's changed a lot.
Yeah.
But that was big back then.
Yes.
Even digital editing, non-linear editing was just coming on board about that time. But what I found when we started that video production company was you can't handle very much business because you're small. So I might have 4 clients a month that I'm doing commercials or small video projects for. And 2 of them tell you, well, we've got to postpone or push off a couple of months, or hey, we're only going to be able to do half of what we did. And I think 2 months into it, I had contracted but had suspended 50% of my business, and I was like, I'm going to have 50% less revenue than I thought I was going to have. Yes. And so I was like, I'm going to have to find another business model to help supplement this. I can still do the video production work, but that's when I had the idea. I had some background in business. I'd had some background in politics. I was like, I've got a video production. I could do a TV show on business and politics. Nobody's doing that. And I knew how paid programming worked. You sell the ads, you buy the airtime, you make a profit off of the difference. I said, I think I can make that work. And I sold a couple of sponsors on it pretty early on. And I was like, that'll generate.
So what's TV station were you on?
I started on KKYK. It was a low power TV station.
AM?
No, it wasn't radio. It was a TV station out in West Little Rock.
I remember that.
You did?
They did after school programming that I remember. Yeah.
Oh.
And then Chuck Spone, the manager of Fox 16, had seen my program and said, I would love for you to move to Fox 16. They didn't even have a news back then.
So did you become an employee of Fox 16 or you're just a freelance person who sells?
Yeah. I just bought the paid program slot from them.
You bought that and then you sold sponsors.
Yes.
So I think a lot of people think all those people on TV are paid for by the TV.
Not all. I'm one that's not. So, but that was really solving that business problem of how do I generate revenue for a video production company that's going to lose 50% of its revenue if somebody cancels on me. I need something more stable for that. And that's how Talk Business and Politics got started.
And it supported you.
Yeah. And it's grown. I mean, trust me, it
yeah.
evolved from one TV show in Little Rock to a statewide TV show in 2 other markets. And then all the public radio stations started picking me up because I had interesting interviews and they could use the audio portion of it. So I'm just repurposing existing material, but I can put new sponsors.
How many employees you have now?
16.
Is that
there was just one at one point in time.
That was you.
That was me.
For how long was it like that?
A long time. I don't know how many years, but a long time. So probably 15 years.
Oh, that long.
Yeah. And my wife, Stephanie.
I think a lot of people don't realize that to start off a new business, you need to have another part-time job. So you're probably still making money a little bit on your production company, right?
No, I don't do that anymore.
But back then.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you actually had 2 jobs going.
Yeah.
And I don't think a lot of entrepreneurs realize when they're starting off, they need 2 jobs.
I agree with that.
Because it takes it took Flag and Banner 9 years. It took, Talk Politics 15.
Yeah. I mean, well, we were a 25-year overnight success or something like that. So, but you do have to juggle a bunch of different stuff. And I mean, to me, and this is part of my work ethic is, I mean, I believe if it's going to fail, it's only going to fail because it's not going to fail because I didn't give enough effort.
Right.
So, I mean, I would work those early years in particular all hours of the day and night because I couldn't live with myself if I didn't give it everything to be successful. If it failed after me giving 18 hours a day, then it fails. But if I just work 8 hours a day and could be doing some more and it fails, I would have a real problem. I would have a problem with that. My personality would have a problem with that.
That's the personality trait, I think, of successful people right there. It's okay if it fails, but it's not okay if it fails because of your lack of effort.
Correct.
So you ended up recently, really not too long ago, starting the Natural State Media, which is now a parent company, an umbrella over all these little side gigs you have. How many businesses do you have, Roby Brock?
That's getting up in my business there, but I'll tell you. So let me clarify a little bit for Natural State Media. So Talk Business and Politics was doing its thing out of Central Arkansas, and we were in Northwest Arkansas and in Jonesboro. And there was a startup internet media company that a good friend of mine named Michael Tilley ran out of Fort Smith called the City Wire. And we started talking. We were content partners. We'd shared stuff back and forth, but we started talking about merging our two companies together. It just made some sense because we were working so closely together anyway, and there were some financial benefits for doing it.
Sure.
So we wound up merging those two media companies and forming Natural State Media as the parent company, and we rebranded everything as Talk Business and Politics. As I told the guys when we did the merger, I said, we don't wire cities. I know what the City Wire is. It's, it's a play on a news, the news wire or whatever.
What now?
Well, we don't wire cities, but we do talk business and politics. I said, we need to call this Talk Business and Politics. And they were like, yes, you're right. But about 6 months into that merger, we got the opportunity to acquire the Northwest Arkansas Business Journal. And
that's a publication, right?
It was just a publication.
Now
it was
it's
a print
more.
product. It's more. But anyhow, it was doable financially. It was a big lift, but I thought, both of us from Talk Business and Politics and the City Wire had been competing in Northwest Arkansas. This was a chance to kind of consolidate all of that and really probably put ourselves about 10 or 20 years ahead of where we would have been in the market up there by acquiring the Northwest Arkansas Business Journal. So we did that deal about 6 months into our merger and just brought it all under one umbrella. But they were just a print publication. They had a website that updated once a week, and it was behind a paywall. And so we took all of that out. We started a radio show up there. We added them into
Who does that?
We do it. So
You do it down here and send,
well, I've got some guys in Northwest Arkansas that do it.
So where
location.
do you get all your information? So when I go to your website and I look at your website, there's somebody posting every couple of hours.
Yeah.
Who all's doing all of that
Well,
with
I
just
told
16 employees?
Well, that's a lot of employees gathering news. Right. So
it's like everybody in this building right now.
Yeah, I've got three. I've got 3 on the ground reporters in Northwest Arkansas. I've got 2 in Fort Smith. I've got 1 in Jonesboro, and then there's myself and a freelancer here in Central Arkansas. So we've got a lot of people.
So how many are freelancing, or how many are on payroll?
I've got 1 freelancer. So everybody
all
else
those
is on
other
payroll.
people are on payroll.
Yeah.
Wow, who's out there selling? I hope you've got somebody selling ads.
I have 2 people that sell ads, and I sell too. So I mean, I'm a pretty good salesman. So
yeah, you are. You're funny. Everybody likes funny people. They do. They do. I mean, look at all the hot comedians. I mean, all the ugly comedians that get to date hot girls.
Yeah.
It helps to be funny.
It really does help to be funny.
Are you saying I'm ugly? Is that what you're saying?
No.
Yeah, right.
No.
Wait a minute. Yeah.
Y'all saying I'm ugly?
I think that was a backhanded compliment.
I'm funny too.
Yeah,
you're both hilarious. Uh-huh.
So describe your day, and then we're going to take a break.
I do 2 things every day. I solve problems, and I probably write and read a whole lot. So, but I mean, if I had to boil it down, everything that I do is in that vein.
How much do you write a day, you think?
I mean, I don't know, like pages or words or, So, I probably help. Well, I write and I edit. So I've got some people submit stuff to me for me to edit and then post. And then I've got some other people that can do that too. And I write some too. And then I take interviews.
Do you keep a notepad by your bed at night and wake up in the middle of the night and write stuff down?
No, but that is how I get things out of my head. I probably just put it in my phone next to my bed. But I have gotten up and written stuff down before, because then I can go back to sleep. If I don't, I can't go back to sleep. I sit there and lay in bed and think about.
You hear that, listeners? That's a tip from the psychiatrist.
Get it out.
Roby Brock. Get it out. And it works like a charm.
And then you can find it the next morning. All right, this is a great place to take a break. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Mr. Roby Brock, founder and host of Talk Business and Politics. Still to come. We'll get his opinion on the current political climate in Arkansas, talk about issues facing not just Arkansas, but many states, the health crisis, education, crime. And you know me, if we have time, we're going to have a little game to play at the end of the segment. We'll be right back.
Hey, Hog fans, it's time to get Razorback ready to call those Hogs to victory. At Flag and Banner, we have all your game day swag. Hog hats, license plates, banners, flags, and more. Come bust out your Arkansas pride today.
We're speaking today with Mr. Roby Brock, host of Talk Business and Politics. Roby is a journalist, a reporter, an entrepreneur, a prominent pundit for the capital city and the state of Arkansas.
I think you barely got it right.
Miami? I didn't know you were in Miami.
Yes, you know, when you were talking about
You
how
gonna make me move to Miami.
No, because I love Little Rock.
Okay.
If you move to Miami, you will really love Little Rock because there are too many people on those 3 roads that drive that go all the way down to the
Right there on
end.
the very tip of the state.
They are all parallel, and there's not very much room down there because there's Everglades, and so everybody down there is on 3 roads.
Looking for space. Gotcha.
It makes you love Little Rock. Weather's nice.
Oh, yeah.
So you're a registered voter, so you can't hide your political affiliation because it's right there.
I can.
No, I can go look it up. I can go find out what you're registered as.
Love for you to do that and see what you find out.
You can't hide it?
Yeah. First of all, in Arkansas, you don't have to put your party affiliation on.
Oh, that's true. forgot
I
about
have
that.
chosen for about I ran as a Democrat back in 96 when I ran for that state Senate seat that we talked about earlier. Everybody was a Democrat back then.
Yeah.
I have not voted in a political primary in probably 10 years because I moderate a lot of debates and I don't want to vote in a primary because you have to choose Republican or Democrat to vote in.
Yes.
So if I were to vote in a Republican primary, then if I did a debate with a Republican and a Democrat, I would be considered biased and vice versa. And so about 10 years ago, maybe a little bit longer than that, I decided I will vote in the judicial elections. They're nonpartisan, but on the party primaries, I'll just have to.
So you don't vote for president?
Not in the primary.
Not in the
I'll vote
but you
in the
do.
general
You
election.
okay, I get you.
And you don't have to declare in the
You don't have to
general.
declare in the general.
And I'll confess, I split my ticket. So, I mean, I voted for R's and D's.
Me too.
So,
That's
but you don't have to. And I mean, but yeah, you can go look up somebody's voter registration and you can see, well, for the last 6 cycles, they voted in the Democratic primary. I'm going to pretty much consider them a Democrat.
Well, I'm going to do the same thing because I sell flags and I sell flags to everybody. And I can't tell you how many people say, can I please come and throw a political party at Arkansas Flag and Banner? And I say, no, because we sell flags to everybody.
Yep.
So, and that worries me because I registered like you 40 years ago.
So 40 years ago.
Or, 30 years ago for you.
I'm kidding. Well, my wife and I have an events venue over here on across from the state capitol on 7th Street called Red and Blue.
Yeah.
And so, which we did so that it could be bipartisan.
I didn't know that was yours. It's cool.
It's my wife's.
Your wife's.
I get
How
to
many
take out the
businesses
trash.
do you
Wonderful.
have now?
I would say 3. So the media company
Has how many underneath it, though?
well, I just group it all into one.
Okay,
So,
the media
'cause I don't have
company,
time
which
to
is a
deal with
lot
all
of,
the different
and then
ones,
and then the event center, and what's the other one?
our market at Chenal, which is an outdoor market and festival that we do several times a year.
That's just your nonprofit. Do good
It's
for
not
the
a nonprofit,
community, but it's your do good for the
It
community.
doesn't make any money, so
Yeah.
if that helps. So
I tell our
But it's
listeners,
my
we
do-gooder for the
talked
community.
about this
Yeah.
before we went on about Roby was like, you can do lots of things, Kerry, in the city and help the city. And he was giving me ideas. And I said, I don't need another passion project where I don't make any more money, but I spend a lot of my time and my own money doing it.
Why not?
Because I'll go broke.
Okay.
Only so many radio shows you can have, I guess.
got you.
Radio show, magazine, Dreamland Ballroom. Those aren't
So we just did
income producing.
So we just did a market at Chenal last weekend, and so we probably had 20 different tent vendors out there, young entrepreneurs selling, jewelry, candles, candy, artists, dog treats. I mean, all kinds. I mean, I love all those people because they are very passionate about what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's usually a
Small
hobby
business.
that they've turned into something and they're trying to grow it. They always have great attitudes, and we have more applicants than I have vendor slots for them. So
congratulations.
we have to kind of, I try to rotate some through. We bring food trucks out there.
How do people find out about it?
Well, we have a website called marketatchenal.com. We're on Facebook and Instagram.
And how
Just
often do you
message
do
me.
stuff?
We do 3 in the spring and 3 in the fall. And so we've got 2 more this fall. October 29th will be our Halloween Carnival Market And December 3rd will be our Christmas market.
I think it was interesting when you pointed out that there was no, what did you call it, placeholder? What did you say? Placemaker. No placemaker anywhere but like in downtown Little Rock or in Hillcrest and Heights, but that Chenal didn't have a placemaker and you saw a need.
Yeah. So, yeah, I talked to some of the folks that run the real estate company out there, and they were like, we'd love to do some placemaking out here in West Little Rock, but we don't have the bandwidth for it. I said, how about if I pitch something for you and we'll just see how it goes. So we just did as a matter of fact, it was 2 years ago this month, we just did one event, and it was a big outdoor farmers market with some of those. Actually, we didn't even have any tent vendors that first one. It was just all farmers market, things for kids to do. I partnered with Last Chance Arkansas, which does dog fostering and adoption. We've helped place 40 dogs. We've gotten 40 dogs adopted in less than a year and a half through that program. So, but anyhow, I bring out a Disney princess. So there's, we've done Easter egg hunts. We've done movies in the park out there. We've just done all that stuff, but it's just fun, So
you have to stay centric when you're doing interviews, but I know you're not. I know you've got to have opinions. How do you manage to stay like that?
Well, I'm just looking for the honest answers from these people. So I can kind of smell BS when it's getting displayed out there. I think this has been part of my attitude too. You don't have to be a jerk when you're asking questions of elected officials. A lot of people want me to be mean to whether it's a Democrat or a Republican. They're like, you were not very, you didn't beat them up.
You'll get better ratings if you are an asshole.
I'm like, I don't want to. I think you can ask a tough question politely. I think you can ask a tough question in a respectful way. And I try to bring that civility into the show every week. And I also try, if you watch some of our interviews, I do it regularly. I won't say I do it with every one of them, but I want people to remember that these elected officials, these politicians are human beings on top of everything else. It's a rough occupation to be in. You get maligned on social media by anonymous sources all the time. And so I will usually open up an interview with hey, how are your kids doing? Hey, I understand that you weren't feeling well recently. Are you feeling better? I mean, just
humanize them.
Yeah. And versus just get in the chair and let me start grilling you, sort of thing. I always try to find something a little personal.
But you did get in a dust up with Mike Huckabee.
I did.
Governor Mike Huckabee.
I did.
You did say something. Tell our listeners.
Well, I think I was speaking to a group of young Democrats who obviously were not in favor of Mike Huckabee. And I said, I'm trying to think what the exact quote was. You may have it in front of you. I don't remember, but I just
should have written it down. Something about we can't take 4 more years.
If you can't stand him, do something about it, sort of thing. Anyhow, anyhow, it was on like page 10B of the newspaper or something on a Sunday, and somehow he got hold of it, and it was in the paper, so I was quoted, but I was really just trying to inspire that room to do something.
And he went after you.
He did, yeah.
And you had to hire a lawyer.
I did.
Chip Welch, who is running for office.
The Honorable
Chip Welch, who's running for.
Yeah, basically the crux of it was I had just started a new TV show with AETN that was just focused on business. They had picked me up to do some stuff for them on a monthly basis. And people around Governor Mike Huckabee on his staff started pressuring some of my advertisers to pull their funding because I'd made this one slightly derogatory comment about him. Yes. That had got quoted in the paper. And so I had all these advertisers calling me and they're like, what did you do to the governor? I was like, I don't know, and they're like, well, they're asking if we support you because of what you said. Anyhow. So it turns out that the AETN called me and said, well, we're going to have to pull your TV show. And I was like, we have a contract. Why are you pulling my TV show? And they're like, well, you said something about Mike Huckabee. And I go, have you ever heard of the right of free speech? And they were like, yeah, but we can't have you on our airwaves if you're going to say something about which I didn't say anything about the governor on the TV show. It was speaking to a group that got quoted in the paper. I said, I'm going to need that in writing from you. And they sent me a letter that said, we're terminating your contract because you said something derogatory about Mike Huckabee. And I was like, can't do that. So we wound up suing.
Yeah.
The governor had to come testify. So did some other people. It was a long time ago. Look,
It was a long time ago.
I've had him on the show since then. He and I have done some roast and toast together. I mean, if I see him out at the grocery store, at the governor's mansion at a reception, we talk. I mean, bygones be bygones. I'm not mad about it.
Life
so,
is long.
Yeah.
Welch said this. It's unfortunate that our governor has a history of retribution against ordinary folks who are perceived as enemies. Do you think that's still going on?
That what's still going
That
on?
people still, if you have opposing views, you're perceived as an enemy.
I think that's a lot of the rhetoric that we see in this day and age. There's a lot of, I just think people kind of go ballistic on everything these days. It makes politics not as much fun to cover as it used to be.
Would you have
It's predictable. You know, I'm like, I already know what the quote's going to be, you know, before it comes back to me. I'm like, this person's going to say this about this person. Oh, look at that. It happened just exactly what I figured they would say. But I just think that zero sum politics just doesn't do anything. And again, it's something that I try to avoid in our news coverage. On my TV program, you're not going to see me letting that kind of stuff go unchecked.
You call it zero sum? What'd you call it?
Yeah, zero sum, just where everybody annihilates everybody. You know, I mean, you may think I'm bad, but I'm going to make you think
All
they're
or
worse.
nothing.
All or
Of
nothing.
all the people you've interviewed in your career, who intimidated you the most? I know there had to be one.
Intimidated me.
I mean, sometimes I know I'm going to interview somebody, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm going to interview them.
Yeah, Cray told me you felt that way about me today. So,
I did.
I'm trying to think if there's somebody who intimidated me.
You were just
Let me think on that
kind
one
of
a little bit.
starstruck.
Yeah.
Kind of starstruck.
I'll tell you 2 interviews that I found the most fascinating while I'm
Okay.
thinking about who I might have been starstruck by. So General Wesley Clark,
Yeah.
fascinating interview. He's interesting to talk to because he's really precise in how he communicates. And I've gone back and I'll usually get transcripts of a lot of our interviews because I turn those for stories on the website. And what he said in the oral part of our interview was just as crystal clear on paper. I mean, it's just logical and made sense. It was like somebody had written a paper explaining a position on something, but he was also fascinating to listen to and engaging to listen to. And sometimes people are great to listen to, and it just sounds terrible when you read it on the
Right.
paper. And sometimes people can write really, really well
And can't talk.
but they can't talk.
Well,
and
you're
he
both.
was one of them that did both.
And you are too.
And I found that fascinating. The other most
I was just going to say, Wesley Clark was one of your first interviews, wasn't he?
Yes, he was
Yeah,
kind
he was
enough to
great.
come on when I was a.
yeah, he's very generous with his time. So the late Governor Sid McMath, probably one of my all-time favorite interviews. I actually sat down with him 3 different times. We talked about his political career, which was transcending for Arkansas. He was a military war hero. He had served in some big battles in World War II. And
He was
had
a
earned,
Marine.
Bronze Star recipient. I mean, super decorated. I think he was a general at one time. And then he had an incredible legal career. He and Henry Woods had a law firm together, and they went against, they have some landmark cases that they won and battled in. So he was just fascinating to talk to. But this is one of my favorite quotes from him. I still remember this. He told me the story of when he was governor. This is 1950, so 7 years before Central High crisis. And they received the first black student application for the med school for UAMS. And so one of his deputies came to him and said, we've gotten an application from a Negro student to get into UAMS. What do you want us to do with it? And Sid McMath said, well, are they qualified? Well, yeah, they passed all the exams. They've got good grades in there. But let them in. And I saw at the time, if you think about where we were as a country, that was pretty brave and courageous to just not even think twice about it, But he had that level of fairness in him. And I asked him, I said, why did you decide to do that in that day and age? Because you could have not done it and been politically popular or, it wouldn't have hurt your career. This could have hurt your career. He said, what's the point in having political capital if you're not willing to spend it?
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, wow, I love that.
Right.
And I don't think we see enough of that in politics today.
I don't think we do either.
People build up political capital and they want to hold on to it and save it and just let a little bit out or use it for very select purposes. He didn't poll anything. He did what was right.
So was Ernie Dumas a mentor of yours?
I knew Ernie a lot. I probably had more mentors in the television side of the business than in the print side of the business. So Ernie's a great guy, though.
Uh-huh. What's the most embarrassing moment? I know you've got one. We've all got one.
How about not recording a U.S. senator?
Did we get that on? Did we get that in the interview?
I don't think we got that.
No,
on
we
the
did that. We
interview.
just talked about that during the break.
I interviewed a U.S. senator one time and we forgot to record. They hit the record button, so I had to get him back, and that was pretty embarrassing. I'm going to have to admit.
Is there something you're the most proud of?
I think there's a lot of things I'm proud of. I'm proud of our company.
Be.
I'm proud
You
of how
should
things
be.
have grown.
Your children, your wife.
I am proud of all of those
Chenal,
things. Yeah.
the
Little
Chenal
Rock,
Festival, Little Rock. Arkansas.
Yeah.
What do you like the best about Little Rock?
Well, I grew up here, so I was born in Fayetteville, but I lived here since I was 1 year old, and so I kind of know all the back roads, and I like to see the places where I, grew up and ran around.
What do you
as a
think
kid,
about
stuff
our
like that.
new governor wanting to make tourism bringing tourism to the state?
It's great.
I don't like it
Why do you not like it?
because I don't want the rivers are already crowded enough.
Well, it's not just the rivers.
What else is there?
Well,
I don't like crowds. I go to Miami all the time. I love coming home.
Well,
And
here's
there's
the thing about
and I don't have to
tourism.
wait in
So,
line.
I look at tourism as a potential huge boost to rural parts of Arkansas that are struggling right now. Like over 50 of the 75 counties in Arkansas are losing population. How are you going to stop that from happening? You're not going to bring an automaker plant to those communities.
Is tourism going to be where they go? Is that going to help? Tourism going to help that?
Well, here's the deal. You can't put an industrial plant anywhere in Arkansas. There's got to be the right kind of infrastructure. There's got to be access to transportation. There's all kinds of things. You can't put a manufacturing plant anywhere in Arkansas. It's got to have certain things. You can put a tourism related industry anywhere in Arkansas. It can be a restaurant. It could be a bicycle shop. It could be
when I think of
a canoe.
When I think of
rental
tourism, I
place.
think of more people on the Buffalo River.
Yeah, well,
And I don't even want to go there
You need to get out to
anymore.
beyond the Buffalo. I mean, have you been up to Wilson, Arkansas, and seen what's going on
Piney?
up there?
No.
Oh my gosh!
What's Wilson?
It's just it's this community that this gentleman has
Named
redeveloped.
Wilson?
Well, he bought it from the Wilsons,
Yeah,
but his
I heard
name's
about
not
that,
Wilson.
yeah.
It's the Gaylord guy that Gaylord Hotels. That guy. Yeah.
No, who's that?
Used to be big in the 70s.
Yeah,
Right.
He's a big developer. Anyhow, restaurants, bed and breakfast, all kinds of programming.
What's up there in Wilson, Arkansas?
That's what I'm saying. It's an Edwardian architecture community up there. You can shop. You
I
can
think Eureka Springs.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's kind of
You're
recreated.
kind of changing my opinion about it because when I hear about that, I'm like, too many people on the bike trail, too many people on the rivers, too many people on the lakes.
I mean, you hear a lot of stories now of especially during COVID, people going out to national parks and crowding trails and leaving garbage and harassing wildlife and getting gored by a bison and all that kind of stuff. And so I think there is like hesitation I think building in tourism infrastructure is different than crowding the infrastructure you already have.
But here, and I'll give you another. Tourism can be about 1,000 different things. I mean, let's think about Arkansas's entertainment heritage, movies, music.
Yes.
We could build more festivals around all of that stuff. Have you ever been to a Beatles at the Ridge up in Walnut Ridge?
No.
That's a
I've
great
heard about
weekend. So
What's it called?
it's called Beatles at the Ridge. So,
Is it Beatle music or?
yeah. So Walnut Ridge, Arkansas, when the Beatles were hitting America, their plane stopped there.
Oh, yeah.
Literally for them to get off and get on a smaller plane to go
Yeah.
somewhere up in Missouri. But the locals found out about it. I mean, that plane was there for like 11 hours or something ridiculous. And they have built an entire weekend music festival where they bring in a Beatles recreation band. They have all kinds of contests. They've got artwork up there. They're playing into the Delta music heritage that's up there. It's a fantastic event. And it's just a great, but that has boosted that community's tourism dollars. It's brought more people in for hotels. It's brought people in to eat at restaurants.
Are you worried about
those are the types of things that we can build more of to boost the tourism economy that are not necessarily putting more people on the Buffalo River, although that would be part of it. So there's other places to float besides the Buffalo. Big Piney. You've been to the Big Piney?
Oh, yeah.
See,
yeah. And the Caddo.
Yeah. Strawberry River.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should run to be governor.
No.
Yes. You'd be good at it. You can see the love in your face for Arkansas, and you
Flag
know
and Banner. That's my next
mayor
that's my
of
next
Flag and
step.
Banner. I'm going to start calling myself the mayor.
Yeah, that's adorable.
I usually call myself the queen, but I think I still stick in the queen. All right, this is a great place to take a break. We're speaking today with Mr. Roby Brock, a prominent Little Rock, Arkansas pundit with a premier statewide news business, the Natural State Media. It is the parent company of Talk Business and Politics that Roby founded in 1999. Still to come, the governors of Arkansas, the ones he's covered. What are they like? And a one-word association game for the people in our current administration, and career tips for aspiring journalists. We'll be right back.
Do you have something to say? Say it in flying colors. I'm Kerry McCoy, owner of flagandbanner.com, where flags tell stories and banners get attention. Whether it's for your business, organization, or special event, custom flags and banners will make your message soar. Visit flagandbanner.com for high quality, quick turnaround. We're not just any flag company, we're the experts that answer the phone.
We're speaking today with the statewide political pundit, Mr. Roby Brock, host of Talk Business and Politics in Little Rock, Arkansas. If you're just tuning in just now, you need to go back. He's funny. I'm sorry. He's funny. He makes me laugh. He's also smart. He tells you a lot about Arkansas, a lot about Little Rock, a lot about the business of politics and media. He's got a pretty diverse and wide media coverage business. So let's talk about the polarized politics of today. What are your thoughts on the role of the media and the political pundits are having in shaping the public opinion?
Can I come back to that? Because I'm going to forget something if I
tell
don't.
me.
So you asked me about the most intimidating interview.
Oh, yeah,
that
I
might
did.
have. Okay, I thought of who that was. And I like him a lot, and he wouldn't intimidate me now. But Scott Ford, the first time I interviewed Scott
Ford,
Alltel, and now West Rock Coffee.
Oh, yeah.
But at the time, Alltel had just sold. Remember that big $28 billion deal, and the headquarters was going away. And I just knew that was going to be an interview. It was the only sit-down interview he did.
Oh,
and so he'd done
flattering.
a press conference, but then they gave me the opportunity to sit down with him for an interview. And I knew how much that was going to be watched by how many people. And then the things that came out in that interview, which was he could finally discuss things that happened over the years in the boardroom and deals that didn't come together that would have changed the whole business landscape for Little Rock, quite frankly, if they had. Alltel would have been as big as AT&T and Verizon if two deals had come together or a few years earlier that they just wasn't their fault that it didn't pull together. But he told that story, and I was like, wow.
I'd like to go watch that interview.
Yeah, I knew when he was telling me how big of news that was. And when he got done telling me the story, he goes, I've never told anybody that publicly. I'm like, well, I'm well aware. I think I've just wet my pants, as a matter of fact, because I knew it was be a huge national story.
Were they? Can you sum the two up?
It was Sprint and Nextel. So back in the day, you had all of those different phone carriers, and the landscape was all, there was AT&T, there was Verizon was called something else before they were Verizon.
Yeah.
And then you had, Alltel was like fifth or something like that. Sprint, Nextel, and there were some other carriers, and they all started consolidating. Mm-hmm. And they knew, Scott Ford and his crew knew it was going to be the big two. Are we going to be one of the big two that survive all of this? And so they tried to do a deal with Nextel that I think Sprint scooped them on. I think they tried that twice, and it didn't work out. But if that had happened, it would have catapulted Alltel.
They'd have been one of the big two.
One of the big two. And then they would have been the ones doing the other acquisitions. Is kind of my recollection of that conversation.
Well, he still came out pretty good.
not a bad day at the office.
But
so.
he still, like you said, it would have changed the whole landscape of Little Rock, Arkansas.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh my
I mean,
gosh.
we would still have those headquarters here. It would be equivalent of what AT&T and Verizon
Yeah,
are.
which
So,
is a lot of good IT jobs. So
your question
polarized politics today. What is the role the media is playing in it? You have some really ugly players in media today. Yes.
Are you referring to like my guests or me or what?
No, I'm talking
you're just talking about it generally speaking.
Yes.
So-
I mean, guys like Bill Riley who'd yell at people to shut up on their interviews. I was like, where's his mother? You
Yeah.
don't tell people to shut up. Didn't he learn that in grade school?
That lack of civility.
Civility.
It frustrates me a lot. Look, I think that at the national level, a lot of these cable stations, the TV programming that relies on this lack of civility, this fighting to get ratings and whatnot. I mean, I just choose to ignore some of them. Like when it happens here in Arkansas, you will see me at times just not
Engage.
cover it because I'm not going to let it sink to that level, and I'm not bringing that here in my program. And again, when it does come to confront some of that stuff, is again why I told you earlier, I think that there is a civil and a polite way to ask tough questions. You don't have to be a jerk about it.
Yeah.
And at the national level, there is the propensity to be a jerk when you're asking or interviewing some of these people. And then sometimes just the selection of the news to cover, it's like, why would you cover that? You know that the only reason you're covering that is because it will stir up controversy and make people mad, angry, whatever adjective you want to use. And I know that that's good for ratings, but it's bad for democracy. And you're giving people a platform to spew stuff that doesn't deserve a platform. And that just builds like a snowball and creates the need for more of it.
And then you have mass shootings.
And I'm like, I'm not going to do that. And if I get a bad reputation because of that, if I lose business because of that, then that's the decision I've made. I'm not going to comply with that kind of.
Do you think it's going to ever go away? Or do you think it's here to stay?
I think it's here to stay.
Wasn't
it's
there a
toothpaste out of
time-
the tube. So
Yeah, wasn't there a time, wasn't there a time that media was required to give both sides of the story?
yeah, it was called the fairness doctrine. It was done away with in the Reagan years. So you didn't
Can we
have to
get
do
it back? Is it possible to get it back?
I don't think Congress would have to pass a law to make that happen. Do you think Republicans and Democrats would agree on doing that in a majority fashion? I mean, I'll answer that. No, I mean, they can't even agree on a budget. I mean, they're not going to ever come together and do that. Maybe a generation from now we'll have that, but it's not going to happen in my working career lifetime. So.
All right, so this is what you said. This is a quote from you.
Oh, for me? Mm-hmm. Uh-oh.
The role of the media and pundits has never been more critical than it is today. In a world filled with information and misinformation, it's the responsibility of journalists and commentators to provide accurate, balanced, and well-researched perspectives. We should aim to facilitate constructive debates, present facts, and encourage critical thinking. Our role is not to tell people what to think, but to provide them with the tools to make informed decisions.
Who said that?
You're so smart.
I said that?
Yeah.
When did I say that?
I don't know. It was written on the internet. I guess you said it.
Man. Well, yeah. That's exactly what I was meant to say. So I do believe all that, though. I still believe that. That's a guiding philosophy for me. But I would say everything you just read.
So the
I still
issues.
believe.
So the issues for all states right now seem to be healthcare, crime, and education. You got any solutions? You talk to people all day long, every day.
Well, there's not a solution to those three issues. I'll give you an example. When I worked for Governor Jim Guy Tucker after the Clinton campaign there, they had a special session right away to shore up the Medicaid program, which is healthcare. That's when they passed the soft drink tax. he brought a big package of bills that he had been chairing as lieutenant governor to the legislature that January after the November election. There were 12 or 13 education-related bills, and there were about 15 sentencing reform, criminal justice bills. We even did a special session on criminal justice after that session. These issues are always going to be with us. And if you look at the state budget, about 92% of the state's tax revenue goes to education, K through 12 and higher education, Medicaid and human services, healthcare, and prisons and criminal justice. That's where 92% of the state budget goes, to those areas, agencies and programs in those areas. So there's not a solution to those problems. What are we doing in those areas to help improve people's lives, to make streets safer, to make healthcare more affordable or accessible, to make sure that education is turning out the types of graduates that we need for a functional society? The recipe for making all those things successful is going to change constantly from generation to generation to generation as times change, as society changes. So I just don't think that there's a simple kind of turn on utopia. Here's my answer to every problem facing.
Then why do politicians get up there and act like there's a simple answer to it?
Politicians, and because people want simple. Because people want simple answers to complex questions,
well, obviously,
and it doesn't exist.
Yeah, because sound bites are all people want to hear.
Yeah.
But prisons, we know that prisons do not work at deterring crime. So why are we playing that short game? Why aren't we playing the long game and starting it when they're early and Head Start and things like that?
I think you have to do both. I mean,
is Arkansas or Little Rock doing anything for children, young children?
Yeah.
Do we still have Head Start?
Yeah, Head Start's still there. And there's a lot of programming that comes in, whether it's through government programs or partnerships with nonprofits or through the schools to deal with some of those issues early on. It's just some are successful, some are not. You're not ever going to have 100% win rate. So,
but how come our crime keeps going up?
Well, does it keep going up?
Yeah.
Or does it go up and come down and go up and come down and go up and come down?
Well, if you look at year over year, it goes up.
It doesn't go up every year.
It's gone up a lot this year and last year.
Well, 2 years before that, it was down. It's never, it's not on just a constant upward trajectory. The reason that I know 3 years ago it was down is because we were all locked down under COVID and nobody went out and committed as many crimes. And I said at the time, I was like, next year and the year after, when those crime statistics come out, it's going to look really bad because nobody was doing we were all locked sheltering down in place. I mean, so there wasn't any crime going on. And
there's no business to rob.
Right.
Well, I don't know. Mine got broken into. Somebody looking for some hooch,
Oh my God.
Why do you have hooch?
Well, we sell beer and wine at our events venue.
The event space.
Yeah. We got broken into.
I thought you were thinking about at your media firm. I was like, y'all serve liquor up there?
That's bourbon that we.
That's just under the desk.
No,
in the drawer. All right. How many governors have you interviewed?
Let's see. You're making me count here. I want to say 6.
Clinton,
maybe 7.
Huckabee, Beebe, Asa, Huckabee again. Was there one before Clinton? Oh, Jim Guy.
Jim Guy. And McMath was a governor. And Bumpers and Pryor were governors. I have interviewed them.
Yeah. If you don't count when they were governors.
Yeah.
So you were talking earlier about Ford and getting ready for the Alltel interview that you were so nervous about. How did you prepare for that interview?
Well, first of all, I knew a lot about Alltel because I've been covering it for years, but particularly in that whole sale transaction, I'll just say that I had a lot of inside sources on that deal because I had worked to develop them over the years. And when it was starting to come together, I was getting some pretty good, and a lot of it was public filings, but just to know where to go look for the public filings is.
But you had somebody giving you putting ideas in your ear. So how many questions did you ask?
Tips sometimes. I don't know, probably 15. But to prepare for that interview, like I do for every interview, I think about the person I'm interviewing. I think about the subject matter. I think about what I want to get from the interview, what I want the end result of this interview to be, knowing that I'm going to get some stuff that I don't know what's going to come out of it. But here's some things I know I want to try to get answers to. I try to think about I'm not as interested in the history of whatever has happened for this person to be of significance for the interview. I mean, I want the background for that, but I want to know what comes next.
You want the current events.
I want to know what comes next. So as a business leader, what do you do to plan for your business here? Does it help you to know what's happened? Yeah, some context and some, understanding. But if you're planning for how you're going to grow your business, you want to know what's on the horizon. Are interest rates going to go down? Do you think interest rates are going to go down? Do you think the economy is going to get better? Do you think crime's going to go up or down? I want to hear from somebody what they think is going to happen, because that gives me an opportunity to either agree with them and plan my business and personal life accordingly, or it gives me an opportunity to disagree with them and plan my business and personal. I don't think he's right on this. I'm going to go a different direction. I do think that he's right on this. I'm going to go in this direction because I think that this person.
So are interest rates going up, Mr. Roby Brock?
No, they might go up one more time, a little bit, but next year they'll start coming down.
So is crime going to go down next year?
I don't know.
You said these questions you want to know. You've been asking them to everybody.
I don't think anybody has a crystal ball on crime.
No, they really don't. So here is my favorite part of the show.
What, is this where you kick me out and say goodbye and thanks for being
Not
here?
yet. Okay. No.
That's coming up.
But I do want to say that the idea for this show kind of started out originally as kind of help for entrepreneurs, because I get so many questions asked me about what do I do about this, and I realized I have a lot of entrepreneurial knowledge, and so that's kind of how it started. But then it morphed into all these other things and became this much more than that. But when you were talking about how you bought a business in Northwest Arkansas that exponentially grew your business overnight, I spent 30 years trying to incrementally grow my business every year.
I did that too.
I know, and it would grow 10% every year.
That's better than me.
And I would think, at the time, let's say if I was selling $1 million, that means I'd grow to $1,100,000 the next year. Well, it would take a long time to get to 10 million in sales. I'd be 95, which was always my goal, was to have 10 million in sales. So then during COVID happened, a lot of these mom and pops went belly up. And so we started buying up these small businesses that were not on the internet. And our business grew exponentially because of that. And I didn't realize how good that was going to grow my sales. I didn't know if I bought this company, if sales would fall off or what would happen.
Yeah.
But it actually was the synergy of the both together that really took my business to another level. So for our listeners, I just want to say, if you get the opportunity to buy the restaurant, if you're a restaurateur and you get the opportunity to buy the restaurant next door, you should really consider it. The benefits are really bigger than you would think.
Yeah. I have 2 pieces of business advice that I give out when I asked. Mm-hmm. Are you asking?
Mm-hmm, I am.
Okay. So
That's where she was going with all that.
One is listen to the marketplace, which is what you're describing. Just if you're in touch with your business and you're in touch with what affects your business, you're going to see the signals and the signs that tell you to buy the business next door or to not buy the business next door. You're going to understand your customers or your clients. So you know what works. There's ways to experiment and try some things that may or may not work. You've done it. I've done it.
Oh, yeah.
You learn from the ones that don't. You capitalize on the ones that do. But listening to the marketplace, having the ability to listen to the marketplace and understand when the shifts are occurring. I mean, that's how we moved from just being a television show to, you know what, we could transfer this to radio also. Oh, and now this internet thing's come along. I can take those same interviews and turn them into stories on the internet. So I'm just giving you the same information, but in different platforms. That was listening to the marketplace. How do consumers of news want to get their news? They want it here. So we've done that, and we've experimented with some stuff that, we did a podcast. There's just not a big market for a podcast for our daily news.
It's a lot of work,
sort of thing. It's a lot of work. Woo! My other piece of advice is, and you'll appreciate this one, is don't do business with assholes.
I agree. If you can't do it on a handshake, don't do business with them.
There are 3 million people in the state of Arkansas, and I can probably name on one hand the number of people I've had to do business with that I did not enjoy doing business with. I can find less than 5 people that I could do the same amount of business with out of a pool of 3 million. I mean, I've had some people that have been very difficult to work with before. And there have been times that I just packed everything up in a box and went, here's your stuff.
Yeah.
We're done.
Yeah.
What? No. Wait. I'm like, I'm not doing business with you because I have, first of all, want a better energy from someone I'm dealing with.
Right.
And secondly, your business isn't that important to me. I mean, if it's going to be this difficult, you need to find somebody else that you can work with. So
you have to sometimes fire a customer.
yeah, I mean, it's really might even be just not even taking their business to begin with. I mean, you're like, ugh. But I'm not going to waste my time and energy with somebody it's not a mutually beneficial relationship.
And I do believe the energy is truly around these people, and I believe it's not good for everybody around.
Yeah.
All right. So here's my game.
Yeah.
You have to give me one word to describe our current Arkansas administration, people that are in our current administration.
Our governor's administration.
Well, these are just the ones I thought of. You can add to them if you want to.
Yeah.
Give me one word for Sarah Sanders Huckabee.
Young.
Oh, that's not what I thought.
Love it.
How about Attorney General Tim Griffin?
Talkative.
You're so good at this game.
Yeah.
You know, not everybody's good at this game.
Speaking of, you know who was good at this game? Ernie Dumas.
Oh,
I
he
bet,
was really
yes.
good at this. You know who else was good? The basketball player.
Oh, yeah.
Joe
Joe Klein was good at this.
Oh, he was
yeah.
good at this game.
For,
Okay.
names in his field. But
Mayor Frank Scott.
Friendly.
City Manager Bruce Moore.
What's the right? These are adjectives.
Well, yeah, one word.
One
Long
word.
tenured. It's hyphenated.
There you go.
Thank you.
Oh, God, you're so good. North Little Rock Mayor Terry Hartwig.
Well, I've got it's more than one word. I'm trying to get it down to one word here. So,
Oh, you can cheat.
collegial. So,
Oh, that is a good one for him. You know, he dated the cheerleader, married a cheerleader.
well, I didn't mean it because of that. He's very friendly. He's easy to contact. He's easy to get
He's
along with.
accessible.
So,
He's got a good heart, too. He's got a really good heart. French Hill.
French Hill, smart,
Tom Cotton.
ambitious,
Boozman.
kind,
Don't say old.
kind-hearted,
Young and
I'm waiting
old.
for somebody to say old.
Yeah, right.
kind-hearted.
How about Rutledge?
Leslie Rutledge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because there's business, Rennie Rutledge.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm just making sure. But you're on politics.
Yeah.
Tenacious.
I knew you weren't going to say kind.
Well, that's your opinion.
He's so good.
Yeah.
Well, she's up there always wanting to tote guns and stuff. All right. A word for
Some people find that very friendly.
Oh,
A
yeah.
lot of people
That's
like
true.
it. I know. I'm not a big, I know my husband and father are hunters. We got more guns. If Armageddon happens, y'all come to our house, but I am not for it. Look, he's just like so avoiding it.
Yeah.
The
Of
Arkansas
course he is.
Senate as a whole.
In olden days, I would say cerebral, but I'm not going to use that adjective in this one. I would say that's tough because there's
Country?
some really good ones and some ones that I would not put in the deep thinking category there.
Yeah, it's a pretty broad.
Yeah.
You know,
I would say state senate. I will say, we'll say tempered. How about that?
That's so tempered.
tempered.
All right, this is the last break.
The house is not like that. The house is wild.
Yes.
Crazy.
Oh, that's
Oh, I should have
The
said.
Senate's
I should have
tempered.
said the house. All right,
Yeah.
give me one word for the house. Crazy.
Diverse.
I think you said wild originally.
Wild, crazy, diverse. I'll give you 3. 'Cause there's 3 times as many
Reminds me
them
of the
there, so.
tour when you go to the old state house and you go in there and they give you the tour about how the guys came in from the
All
old
over.
state.
Guy killed a guy on the
Killed the
floor.
guy right there on the
Yeah,
floor.
stabbed him. He was a speaker of the house.
We're about there again, aren't we?
Lord.
We're speaking today with the well-respected Mr. Roby Brock, host of Talk Business and Politics and CEO of the parent company, the Natural State Media. We come back. This is our last break. We're going to do career tips for aspiring journalists, and I'm going to tell you how you can hear, watch, and read Roby's news coverage. We'll be right back.
Buying a flag isn't always easy. Luckily, Arkansas's flagandbanner.com is here to help. Locally owned and operated for more than 40 years, our friendly and knowledgeable staff will help you find just what you're looking for. From flags, to banners, to decorations and more. Shop online or in-store. Come see us today. Arkansas's flagandbanner.com. We're the experts.
We're speaking today with journalist, reporter, entrepreneur, and pundit Mr. Roby Brock, known for his insightful commentary as host of Talk Business and Politics in Little Rock, Arkansas. If you're just tuning in, you need to go back and listen to the rest of the show because it's good. He's funny. He tells you a lot of stuff. It's informative. I don't know. I liked it. Being a lawyer used to be an honorable profession, Roby. So was the business of news and reporting one time. But more than a few
You don't think that it still is?
But more than a few bad payers have tarnished both professions by putting greed over working for the greater good. In the current media landscape and knowing what you know today, would you still recommend the news business to aspiring journalists?
To aspiring journalists? Well, you wouldn't have any other option but to an aspiring journalist. If you ask me, would I recommend a young person get into journalism?
You're right. Mm-hmm.
I would say you might ought to think about investment banking or something like that. You know, I'm just kidding. Look, people need to follow their passion. And if your passion is to tell stories, to communicate, to use the news to bring things to light that need to be brought to light, whether that's just an interview with someone to learn something about them, or whether it's to fix an injustice, or whether it's just to report the daily what's happening. I mean, that's all news. It's just all different. You got to find your lane. You got to find your space. So experiment with all of that if you aspire to be a journalist, and experiment with the different platforms, the different media that you might be working in. Online only. You might be working in TV. It's different.
Boy, there's a lot of avenues now,
There's a
aren't
lot.
there?
Yeah. That's one of the things that we have a lot of diverse lines of being able to get our news from. And that's intentional. And not a lot of news organizations were doing that. When I first got into this 25 years ago, you were the newspaper. It was rare that you were a blog, or you were TV news, but that was it. Or you were radio news and that was it. But I was doing all of that stuff. And I use the analogy, how do people want to bank? You want to bank on your computer?
Yeah.
You want to go into the bank branch? Mm-hmm. You want to go through an ATM?
You want to use your phone?
You want to use your phone? You can still bank by phone, like call and do banking if you want to. Yeah, you can. So you give people options, but that's listening to the marketplace. That's listening to customers and how they want to consume news. I'm going to give it to you on a bunch of different platforms. And so as a journalist, you need to be able to have some functional knowledge of that, because you'll find where you gravitate towards.
Are there any investigative reporters anymore?
There are. Investigative reporting is difficult. It's expensive because you're not going to hire somebody right out of school to be an investigative journalist. There's a lot you have to learn to be able to navigate systems that you need to do and to report in a way that's not going to get you in legal trouble, which is a consideration.
Mm-hmm. And you have to spend a lot of time, and I don't think news outlets are willing to do it. They want that news coming out fast.
Well, you may go months working on a project. You can do both. I mean, we do some investigative reporting, just not probably what some people would consider. Like in our Fort Smith Bureau, for instance, we were still reporting the daily news, but there was also a tax being assessed on the citizens of Fort Smith for recycled waste. It was supposed to be going to a landfill about 20 miles away. They were dumping it in the regular city landfill. So they were charging residents this recycling tax, but they weren't taking it to a recycling facility. They were just dumping it in the They've been doing it for about 3 years. That was an investigative.
How'd you get that tip to go check on that?
Well, I mean, I can't reveal all my stories.
So if people see stuff like that, can they call you or log on, or how do people get in touch with you and say, hey, here's a Miss?
I've never had a problem getting people to find ways to get in touch with me. I don't put all that stuff out there, but I mean, my email address is public.
Yeah.
Apparently my phone number is somewhere because I get text messages at 3 a.m. or
from people saying, hey,
you need to look into this to be worth checking out.
So you get a lot of, suggestions.
Most of it's anonymous.
And you get a lot of suggestions.
Some of it doesn't check out. Yeah. I get suggestions. No lack of suggestions. You should. You should. You
have no lack of suggestion. All right, I'm going to read your last quote, and then we're winding it up.
Roby Brock. Finding these quotes.
My advice would be to stay curious and dedicated to the truth. Journalism is a noble profession, and it's essential to maintain your integrity and credibility. Build a strong foundation in research and reporting, and don't shy away from tackling complex issues. Above all, listen to your audience and engage with them. It's through dialogue and discussion that we can foster a more informed and enlightened society.
I want you to find wherever this guy, I don't know. I don't remember writing this.
You know what? I'm going to confess. I did this on Chat GPT. I should have checked it out.
No, you didn't check your sources?
They say to do that all the time. You don't remember saying that?
Well, I mean,
That's
I'm not
really
saying
good.
I didn't. I'm just saying I don't remember where I would have. I mean, I speak to a lot of groups. I probably speak to 100 different audiences.
Because I asked Chat GPT to give me some quotes.
There's no telling where it came from. So I believe that I said that.
But you're just trying to make me feel bad. I was like,
well, no, I don't know where it's sourced. I'm like, I don't remember writing that and putting it somewhere.
All
but
right.
I could have easily spoken that
you
somewhere,
spoke it.
and somebody
you did. It was
did
spoken.
a news story I never saw.
It was spoken.
So,
yes. Talk Business and Politics can be found where today?
Talkbusiness.net.
Oh, so what about TV?
We have all our videos on there.
What's the Capitol View?
Capitol View is a political TV show that KARK puts on, and I was the original host of that 10 years ago this year. And then I went away for a couple of years over to KATV, and then I came back to KARK and took over Capitol View again. So I do 2 TV shows.
A week?
A week. Capitol View and Talk Business and Politics.
And how about radio?
I think
KUAR,
we do,
KUAF, KSU.
I think we do 8 radio shows a week.
And so they can all go to say your email address again
4,
to find out
5,
where all of this is.
6 radio shows a week.
And you said they can go to
8
Arkansas
if you count
Business,
Northwest Arkansas Business Journal. 8.
ArkansasBusiness.net.
No, talkbusiness.net.
Talkbusiness.net.
Yeah. There's a drop down on the menu bar that you can find everything everywhere.
Everything everywhere. Thank you,
I think
Roby.
it's about. So
Thank you, Roby, for sharing your invaluable insights and experiences. We have you a U.S. Arkansas and desk set.
Oh, I thought I was going to get a water bottle.
No, you get that to take back. Do you already have a U.S. and Arkansas desk set?
Not a desk set, no.
You need one.
Thank you.
To our listeners, this show has been brought to you by Arkansas's flagandbanner.com, made possible by the good works of our commercial voice, local celeb and audiographer, Mr. Tom Wood, summa cum laude videographer, Mr. Jonathan Hankins, production manager, daughter, Megan Pittman, and my co-host son, Gray McCoy. Thank you for spending time with us. We hope you've heard or learned something that's been enlightening or inspiring, and that whatever it is, will help you up your business, your independence, or your life. I'm Kerry McCoy, and I'll see you next time on Up in Your Business. Until then, be brave and keep it up.
If you liked this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking on the picture in the center of the screen. For more of Kerry's interviews, click either video on the right of the screen. And as always, thank you for watching.